Welcome back to the ProgCast. I'm Gregg Bendian, your host and fanboy historian. I am so knocked out that this could happen. This is really quite an occasion. We have, well, he's originally from New Zealand, but he's now based out of Australia. He is a composer, pianist, an arranger, an educator, and he is one of the progenitors of the music that we affectionately call jazz rock. So I'm very honored and pleased to welcome to the podcast Mr. Mike Nock. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Greg.
How are you, sir?
A little bit frazzled, but that's my fault. I always leave things to the last minute.
Well, you're an improviser.
Yes, exactly.
You know, I was really looking forward to this because I remember when you were in New York. I was just starting on the scene when you were kind of leaving New York. But I wanted to go back further than that and ask you, when you're growing up in New Zealand, did you have classical lessons? Did you have jazz? Like, what was going on in New Zealand?
Oh. The only thing that was going on in New Zealand is that I was a bit of a rebel as a kid, you know, and I was really always fighting. And the thing is, I heard this music, Charlie Parker, you know, the Jazz at Massey Hall concert, changed my life. All of a sudden, that's what I wanted to do. I thought it was a local band. I heard it on the radio. I didn't know any better. I was about 11 years of age. And not long after that, I heard the Nat King Cole. He was in New Zealand with the local rhythm section. Nat King Cole.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm about 11 years of age now. Hey, man, there's no going back now.
You saw Nat Cole live?
That's right.
Oy.
That's right.
And he played a lot, right? He sang some, but he played a lot.
He played a lot. In those days, yeah. You know, all I remember was the experience with local rhythm section, with a local bass player and drummer. Seriously. In New Zealand.
So that's life-changing for you. I'm curious, though, the road between that and I know you end up at Berkeley.
I didn't end up at Berkeley. I stopped off briefly along the trip, along the journey.
Yes, but at some point, there's this moment where you're at Berkeley, and I was so curious who was with you around that time at the school.
Bayard Lancaster, do you remember that name?
I do.
Bayard Lancaster.
Reed player.
Yes, exactly. Keith Jarrett was a student the same time that I was. There's lots of people, you know, a lot of overseas people that you may or may not have heard of. Dusko Gojkovic, I don't know whether you know him, but Sam Rivers lived in the area. And I was friends with Sam and Tony Williams. Now, they were the two biggest influences to me because we played all the time.
That's a really important period because Tony's also with Hal Galper around that time.
Well, Hal was on the scene, and it's an interesting story. I know Hal so well. We you know, it's another story.
Okay.
So,
Hal's a good.
Right,
okay.
No,
Hal's great.
I love Hal. Oh, he is great. But we were the two rivals, you know, at the time. And what happened? He chased his girlfriend to Europe. You know, and when he got over there, I took all the gigs because I was the next in line.
Right.
And he tried to suck. When he came back, he thought he should have, you know, standard seniority rights. Hey, man, I'm not giving you up these rights. You kidding me? So I copped all the Hal Galper gigs in Boston.
Oh.
This is way back at the beginning. Because I used to play at the Stables with Herb. I used to play with Gene DeStasio. Do you remember that name?
No, I don't.
We had a quintet. It was his quintet with John Neves on the bass. I don't know if you've heard of John Neves.
Yes.
And who was the drummer? Oh, Tony was the drummer. What am I talking about? Who was the drummer?
How old was Tony?
maybe 15 or 16. It was before he went with Miles, you know.
Yeah. So were you like, I got to ask you, were you like, what's going on with this drummer? We've never heard anything like this. Did it stand out to you?
I just loved it. I just loved it. I really did. It's like when I first heard the jazz at Massey Hall. All of a sudden, hey, I know what's going on. I just loved it, you know. And there were some great drummers in Boston at the time. Little Bobby Ward. Does that name ring a bell? Probably not. Little Bobby, Jimmy Zatano, another one. These are all legendary, you know, Boston musicians. And of course, Alan Dawson, who was Tony's teacher. Well, I worked with Alan for years. You know, that's so it's all related, Greg. That's the thing. It is all related.
Tell me a little bit about what made Alan Dawson so effective as a drummer and as an educator.
Well, he really. It's funny because I did a gig here in Sydney about a month ago with a drummer, and he reminded me of Alan. It's the same type of thing. Alan was a stickler for detail. Too much of a stickler for my taste. It's not my taste. I like a little bit looser. You know, that's why I love Tony. I love Ferronac Laugh. He's one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, Ferron.
And I've played with Ferron a few times over in recent years. You know, back here in Australia, we've recorded together. You know, we go back a long way, me and Ferron. That's a totally different style. You know, Alan was very much almost. He's from the Max Roach School. Almost call him rigid, stiff, almost. You know, but you know, there you go. But he was a great guy and a great drummer. And I was fortunate enough to spend at least a couple of years working with him regularly with a range of players, you know, from Pee Wee Russell to Benny Golson. Seriously. So, you know, I'm a white boy from New Zealand who just landed on it.
But you're interesting to me because just like Jan Hammer coming from Czech and going into Berkeley for a minute, and then you guys immediately get gigs and you're playing with everybody. He starts playing with Sarah Vaughan, I think, and you start playing with YUSEFF LATEEF right away.
Well, not right away. I played with by the time I got to play with Yusef, I played at a club in Boston called Connolly's Stardust Room. You ever hear of that?
Yes.
It was in the very small place. I heard Herbie Hancock, Eric Dolphy, many people played there. It was great. And I played there a little bit with different people also. But then Yusef came to town, and Hal was supposed to do the gig. But Hal succumbed at the time, said no, he didn't think it was a good idea for Hal to do it. So Hal said to me, would I be interested in doing it? I said, are you kidding? And that's when me and Yusef just hit it off. It was one of those things.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things. And so pretty much after we did the gig, a few weeks later, he called me up to say, would I be interested in joining the band the next night? And it was a recording session. It was my first recording session. I was just a kid from New Zealand. And we did Yusef's most popular record ever, Live at Pep's. You know,
so tell me about what was heavy about Yusef and what you experienced musically in that ensemble.
His passion to the music. That's what I really learned from him. It was fun, but it was serious fun. He took the music very seriously, and it was better. And we had fun. He was like a kid in some ways, but the music was serious, paramount, you know. And I really learned that as a leader. So I'm hugely indebted to YUSEFF LATEEF. I really am. He taught me how to be a band leader.
What did he teach you?
Just that. Take the music seriously. Always strive. Don't give anything less than 100%, you know, and try to instill this in the musicians. Just, you know, always be like that, you know. Because he played with such passion.
Was there a regular lineup?
Oh yeah, there was a couple of different lineups. The first lineup was with Ernie Farrow playing bass, who was Alice Coltrane's brother. You know, did you know that?
Did not.
Yeah, it was Ernie. Yeah, a lovely guy. Ernie and I think James Black might have been the drummer. Do you know James Black? Yeah,
that name. Yeah.
In the rhythm and blues field. I didn't know this, but he was like a heavy. And I didn't know this. When we used to fight like we used to fight like tigers, him and I. I don't know why. This was one of those. They had to say about everything, about me being white, him being black, whatever the fuck. I don't know. But they had to tear us apart on stage at Shelley's at one point. I get it. It's some funny stuff. We ended up being really pretty tight friends. But, life's funny. Life's funny,
Well, and life on the road.
Yeah, but Richard Williams was the trumpet player, the original trumpet player. But then, Richard Williams.
Yes.
And then Johnny Cole. Johnny Cole's, man, wow, fantastic.
So yeah. That was a kind of its own style of jazz, isn't it? It's sort of a post-Coltrane, but it's also very.
It was definitely, and I probably learned that from you, sir. Be your own man. Otherwise, to me, jazz is about self-expression. And it's great that all these cats play, but hey, try to find your own voice. And that's one thing I suppose I did really get from you, sir. I mean, I'm not a bebop player. I would have loved to have been a good bebop player. And I got the gig with Art Blakey, and I thought I'm going to learn how to play this music. But I almost immediately got put in a hospital with hepatitis at Bellevue Hospital. So, and the band went on the road, and I was replacing Keith. And you know who they replaced me with? Chick. So that was a whole chapter that's been unsaid and unwritten and all the rest of it, unfortunately.
That is the lineage right there. Amazing to hear it from you. Now, tell me though, playing with Blakey, what's going on?
Very much with him. Oh, he was, for me, we got along great, but I only played a couple of times with him because I got sick almost immediately. It's like I was with the band, and we drove to Philadelphia, which is at the same club, live at Pep's, and we in the journey, it was I remember this. We're all in the car together, and we get to the club, and there's been a mess up with the booking, and you know who's playing in the club? YUSEFF. So we're all, and this is a arts band with Chuck Mangione. I think Chuck was playing trumpet, and Frank Mitchell, I think, was a tenor player. And we're outside, we kind of go inside of the club. And while we're inside the club in Philadelphia, somebody came along and cleaned the van out. And we step outside the club, and everything except Chuck's trumpet, because Chuck had it with him, had gone. And then I'm feeling, and by this time I'm feeling really ill, and so we go back to New York, and sure enough, I've got hepatitis, and it's really bad. I'm in the hospital. So that was it for me.
Yeah,
it's just the way things work out sometimes,
So I'm very curious about this moment and what causes this kind of, in best case scenario, collision between jazz and rock music. And is it related to Hendrix? Is it related to something else? Tell me, for Mike Nock, what was going on when that happened?
Well, there was nothing going on. For me, it's all the same. It's all the same. Of course, the one thing that was the biggest change for me was I grew up learning how to play with a certain time feel, a more dotted, doop-a-doop-a-doop, swinging type feel. And when the fusion came in, it was more even, da, 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 which to me was non-swinging, but it was really, really difficult because I didn't learn this stuff intellectually. I learned it with my body, and so it was very hard to I found it very hard to relearn. And that's been the story of learning music to me. But in terms of the styles of music, hey, what the hell? It's just music. If you're playing with people that are listening, if they're not listening, it's not much point for me. That was always a big thing for me. And I always felt like with Tony, no matter how loud he might play, he was always listening. Always. I can hear it. So it's about listening. Then do your thing.
I'm so happy to hear you land on that, because it's a big one with my students. What are your listening chops?
Yes, huge. That's huge. That's huge. To listen really, and Tony was a great listener, and always. One of the things I remember about Tony was that it was a language to him, and he'd say things to you. You'd be listening to some music together, say, "Hear what he's saying. Hear what he's saying." You know, hear what he's saying. It was a real language. I mean, that's kind of what it's all about.
Right.
You know,
And what is your language when it comes to, now you're well known for being one of the first guys to go processing on Rhodes and electric piano stuff. What were you getting into with that?
Well, it was just, I'm a pragmatist. I really am a pragmatist. The reason why I even played Rhodes, I mean, I met Harold Rhodes, and he had this new instrument. In those days, don't forget, jazz musicians, we didn't get to play on very good pianos. They were like
Correct.
The worst. And so the piano was not, you didn't hear the piano in the band, really, not the way I'd heard it. You didn't hear it like on the records. It didn't sound like that. Then the Rhodes came along, and all of a sudden, when I was with the Fourth Way, I had an equal voice, along with Michael White. We were equals, and that made that was a new ball game for me. That was it.
I want to talk about Fourth Way so badly.
Well, don't talk about us badly.
No, I've been wanting to talk about this shift that you guys go from acoustic to electric, and really the continuum of the music, and then really your writing for that band. What kind of situations are you setting up? What is the Fourth Way? I know you'll just say music, but what is the Fourth Way? And it's also a Gurdjieff reference, correct?
Exactly. Well, it just had it resonated for us on so many levels. The whole idea of the fourth way. Hey, fourths, other than thirds. The tertiary, the quartal approach to harmony as opposed to tertial. I mean, this is just stuff. You can go back, but these are things that, hey, attracted us, even if they were just concepts that we never really took on board, So that was one of the things. And what else was it? Oh, yeah, the whole thing about the Fourth Way was we were just, as I said, I'm pragmatic. I'm very pragmatic. And when I write music, and I've always done this since before I even knew I'm self-taught. But I've always written music, even when I didn't know anything. My first band, and I'm not digressing. I was a kid. I was about 12 or 13. I just started playing, and I got a bunch of neighborhood kids together, and anybody that could make a sound was welcome, because of a guy called Spike Jones. You remember Spike Jones?
I do know. Love Spike Jones. Yeah. That shit's amazing.
Well, he was and we had a cornet player that could play a B-flat scale. Okay, you can play a B-flat scale. And someone else, a guitar player, played a few chords. Let's make some music that we can all play together, because we couldn't play anything else except what we made up. And I've been doing that ever since. That seriously is what I do. And I try to make music that people can play. That's been my whole trip.
So who were the composers that you admired, or your contemporaries compositionally, that you were excited about?
What you mean were? There was no words. I didn't know anything about anybody else except myself. Then, no, seriously, but the musicians I loved and remained loving up to the, not everything he did, but up to the end. My all-time favorite musician is, you can probably tell me, Miles Davis. Miles, and everything he stood for musically, so
there's a lot there.
There's a lot there, exactly. So,
Yeah. And look who's in and out of that band, and look at the changes of direction and the balls to change.
Well, I played with all the cats in his band except Wayne. Although I did a radio show with Wayne, and I never had to. I would have loved to have played with Wayne because I wasn't with Miles. I was shit scared. I was overawed. You know what I'm saying? And Miles did actually call me once. It really did in New York. He was looking for Al Foster. Because I mean, I knew all the cats, and I knew Tio really well. You know, I used to do a lot of work with Tio, and I worked with all the cats. I didn't work with Ron too. I work with Ron usually on commercial gigs, believe it or not.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. You were doing jingles, right?
Well, not many, but usually Tio would set it all up. Tio was my man.
Oh.
You know, so I do not just jingles. I did orchestral things and everything. And there'd often be two pianists. Dick Hyman would be the other piano player. Dick Hyman.
Oh, come on.
Serious.
That's insane. That's Dick Hyman. Tell me, please tell me about Dick Hyman.
Oh, he was great. He's fantastic. You know, I mean, really. I mean, but I would find myself this is the story of my life, Greg. I found myself thrust into these situations through good luck or whatever, and there I would be. And Dick was a wonderful, beautiful man, lovely guy, very helpful. You know, I mean, when he's on the gig, you don't have to do anything. You know, he's going to take care of it all anyway. So,
yeah. Well, talk to me about arranging for two pianos. Talk to me about how you would have something like that project, how you would negotiate that musically.
Well, I didn't write that stuff. That would have been Tio's stuff. That would have been just written. But I did do a two piano track with Mal Waldron, believe it or not. Just the two of us.
A tour?
No, just a recording.
Oh, wow. Mal Waldron, wonderful.
Yeah. But I've never really been into two pianos.
It's hard, right? It's not easy.
I just don't dig it. It's just, look, to be really honest, I've always felt rather insecure about my playing level, my piano playing chops, you know. So the insecurity overrides anything. So I'm not able to, you know, everyone sounds better than me, you know. You know, I'm serious. This is the thing that I've gone through a lot. It's taken me years to kind of even accept myself. If that makes any sense. I think it's quite a common problem with a lot of musicians. We tend to, like as I said, if I hadn't known, every now and then someone will play a track that I don't know, it's me, and I say, geez, that sounds good. Who's that? And I got to say, I said, it's you. I said, well, man, if only I hadn't known I'd sounded so good back in the day when I was playing well, you know, it would have changed everything. Well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that, you know. So it's just interesting, all that stuff. The way we look. See, don't forget, I'm from New Zealand. It's a different head, like than America.
Really? Do tell. I'm curious. What does that mean?
Well, you know, one of the worst crimes one can commit in New Zealand is to be considered what we used to call a skite, you know, which means somebody who's full of themselves. You're a skite, you know. A matter of fact, a friend of mine years and years ago was talking. He said he referred to my Facebook page or one of those things. He said, send us your Skype page. He called it the Skype page. that's the kind of culture I come from. You're not that good. You know what I'm saying?
That's almost Scottish.
Well, it could be. Yeah.
You're not that great. You're not great.
Exactly. Same kind of thing. You're not that good.
I kind of like it.
I think Miles said pretty much that to Miroslav when Miroslav played with the band for a few weeks. At the end of it, Miles said something along those lines. You're not that good. And that was it.
So you were really kind of before. Do you remember? I'm curious about like when Zawinul shows up with Cannonball, and then it's sort of you're talking about Miles the Bitches Brew era. How you're responding to that's going on, because that's a huge transition, right? 69 into 70 into the 71.
Again, I felt, or right or wrong, I felt we were there at the same time, if not first. It wasn't even about that. We were just following our nose, and we were an electric band, basically. No, we were an acoustic band. We got forced into playing electrics because we were playing clubs like that, and they didn't have pianos, and I had this Fender Rhodes. So and basically, and people would dance to our music and stuff, and then sometimes Ron would play that bass, and sometimes he wouldn't. But it didn't matter. But it was we were basically an acoustic jazz band, just doing our thing, and I felt that the whole Miles thing, it was pretty much like what we were doing anyway.
Interesting.
Different, of course, but so I didn't feel there was any conflict there. And when I heard, Miles actually called me up, as I said, he called me up a few years ago. Boy, it would have been a few years ago now, quite a few years ago, looking for Al Foster. But the first thing he says to me, he says, because he knew it was me. I'd met him, but I'd never spoke to him. And he says, "I hear you're a motherfucker." That's Miles telling me this. And so, you know what I do? True to my roots, I go into complete denial. Instead of saying, if I was an American, I would say, "Yeah, man, I'm a motherfucker. We should get together, us cats." But of course, I was petrified with Miles, So
Sure.
I go into total denial. And as soon as you go into denial with cats like that, that's it. That's it. Next. You're out of the picture, I mean, that's just the way I was.
Do you feel as though your approach was really connected to certain players of that time, or did you think you had your own thing? Herbie, Chick, Keith. It seems to me like all of you guys are somehow connected.
We were all contemporaries.
Yeah.
We were all contemporaries. So I mean, I didn't want to be influenced by those cats. So I purposely didn't listen too much, particularly to Herbie, who I love the most, and Chick, who I'm not so much Chick. We used to play together. He'd play drums, I'd play piano. But and Keith, I did a few sessions with Keith on the other piano at home. And that was a lesson in itself. Herbie, I never really met Herbie except I was playing a rehearsal in Lynn Oliver's studio. You ever heard of Lynn Oliver's studio in New York?
Yes.
The Lynn Oliver studio. Yeah, it was a studio where a lot of bands used to rehearse. I remember Herbie just walking past me and saying, "Sounds beautiful, man." That's the only thing we've ever said. And I remember that. It's like, but I've never spoken to Herbie. Even though I know all the cats, I just never spoken to him. Just never happened like that,
Well, to what degree for you was the Impressionist composer? To what degree were you a Debussy or a Ravel guy? To what degree were you a Bill Evans guy? To what degree was any of that meaningful to you?
Well, I'm a jazzer. I'm totally from the jazz thing. So Bill Evans probably would have had the biggest influence on me as far as that goes. And I met Bill, and he was a really lovely guy and really nice to me and everything. But I don't have any academic background. It's funny. I've ended up doing a whole lot. I've become an academic in a sense, never really wanting to, but it was thrust upon me. And hey, why not? It's been good for me in many respects, particularly in this part of the world, because it's opened the doors to like steady finances. One thing, it's also opened the doors to kind of being able to influence many other young musicians and all that stuff. So I've been very fortunate with all that stuff. But I never had any academic or training about those, even though I tried to play like that. I mean, I never knew anything about it. Like, to be really honest, I could never find a teacher when I was a kid in this area. No one would, because everyone said, if I'd go to a teacher, they'd say, "Oh, you're going to be a jazz player." Next, don't come back here. We don't want you. So I get to the States and I get into Berkeley. And I had this piano teacher called Ray. Well, I think not Ray. Ray Santisi also. He was great. But all we did was talk about stuff. But I also had a classical piano teacher. So I had Ray Santisi as a jazz teacher, and I had Alfred Lee, his name was, as a classical piano teacher. Now, I didn't know anything about classical music or anything, but I had practiced my ass off when I was back in Australia with Hannon. So I used to put lead weights on the keys, and I had really strong, and I practiced a lot. So he immediately puts me on the Chopin etudes, which are quite challenging. And I'll tell you what, I spent hours and I could play almost the whole book of the Chopin etudes, which I can't do now. But I didn't know I wasn't supposed to do that. I just worked my ass off. He said, do this. I told okay. And I just started practicing.
No, it's extraordinary.
You know?
Wow.
Yeah. In today's thing, it is. I realize now, wow, of course. I didn't know any better. You know, I just knew to work my ass off. That's all I knew.
Tell me about working with Lieb, with Dave Liebman.
Lieb's great. He's a fantastic musician. We met back in the days of the loft scene, you know, way back when. We didn't have much to do with each other, but him and Richie. But you know, yeah, he's great. He's such an easy guy. We get along really great. We did this record. He came out to Australia many years ago, like 30 years ago or something, and we were to do a concert together. And we hadn't played for 20 or 25 years. And we immediately walk on stage. We had a glass of wine, you know, and a talk through of what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. And we played in front of about, 500 people or something. And it became a top record, just the two of us. Now, I don't think my playing is very good, but it won the ARIA Award, Jazz Record of the Year or something. That's the way the shit goes sometimes. You know?
Well, you guys have such a common language or jumping off points, certainly from the Miles point of view, right?
It's true. That's true. Yes. Very true. And it is about that. It's about the commonality of language that we share. And that's what the whole jazz thing, it's gotten harder these days because it's such a broad field now. You know, what is jazz these days? You know what I mean? What is it?
Well, may I ask you? I was curious if you were aware of an Australian band called Hiatus Coyote.
I know the name, but I don't know their music. Is that a jazz band or a pop band?
Well, it's
because I don't know.
It's hard to say, but their keyboardist Simon is quite extraordinary in terms of orchestration with the sounds. You know, and a lot of the sounds that are known as vintage sounds are sounds that you were starting with the ring mod and things like that.
Okay, wow. Well,
so
I mean, look, it's all right. Yeah.
Now I'm curious because certainly Australia is its own thing. People will go to Australia. But they're not. I mean, the people that reside and work in Australia. I mean, there's something special about that, isn't it?
Well, yes. Don't forget, I'm a Kiwi. I'm from New Zealand. Don't forget that, and that is a distinction. Really
I want to say that I do respect that. By the way, I know all about it.
You know all about it, huh?
I that's why I said originally from New Zealand. I didn't say you were from Australia. You're not Aussie.
Look, I love Australia.
Shout out to my son. He knows this as well. We know about it.
All right. How come?
Well, that you mentioned it's do you know Jermaine and Flight of the Conchords?
Yes, of course.
Okay, yes. So they brought this to light, and then of course now Auntie Donna. You know, they're everyone that's aware of it is, and then, oh, what's the other guy? There's another New Zealander. And, you know, it's a different thing. It's not the same thing, right?
It's not the same.
It's so interesting.
It's out. New Zealand's out. I love New Zealand, but it's out.
It's out, right?
Yeah. Well,
Why is it so out? Why are people so crazy?
I'm not crazy. It's just a different thing. We really feel that we are just are different from everyone else in the world. But seriously,
Nothing wrong with that.
that's just.
Yeah.
There was a TV show called Wellington Paranormal. Did you ever hear of that?
No,
Wellington
please tell
Paranormal.
me. Tell me.
Well, it's the TV show. It's on TV, but it's about just the police force in Wellington. It's all out. It's totally out. I mean, it's paranormal. It's kind of a comedy, but it's out. It's so out.
So wait a minute. Is this a documentary or is this a series?
No, it's just kind of it's not a documentary, but it's just a crazy thing that they do. I don't know whether it's still running, but I used to watch it because it was so out, so out. You know, I mean,
So like the Scandinavian thing with gnomes and seeing elves and this sort of thing. It's like such an interesting regional thing as to what's out, what's supernatural, what's preternatural, things that are going on. I had the guitar player from Jade Warrior tell me about crop circles that he witnessed. Yeah, man. It's where are you from? Where are you coming from? What's going on there?
well, exactly. That's what I'm asking you.
Yeah.
I'm asking you that.
No, it's a good question to ask, and also to have a sense of local and global at the same time, and retain your original identity. So for me, growing up in New Jersey, right across the river from New York City, and having access to that my whole life.
Well, I was in New Jersey for many years. You knew that.
Where?
Right? Basking Ridge.
You were in Basking Ridge?
You didn't know that?
When were you in Basking Ridge?
Oh, for about 6 or 7 years. When was it? It's a while ago now.
In the 80s?
Yeah, before I came back.
Before you split?
I came back. Yes, that would have been 1980, around about that period, to 86, and something like that, or maybe, yeah.
How'd you like it?
Well, I dug Basking Ridge. It was all right. I mean, it was cool. You know, it was close enough to New York City, you know, which is cool.
Right. Quiet.
There was something, well, except there were some things about it that used to really upset me. One of the things was every now and then in the middle of the night, the alarms would go off, like the fire alarms, and you never knew whether it was a nuclear bomb or an accident or whatever the hell it was. And so you'd freak out until you realized it would pass, and you realize, oh, that must have been an accident or something, you know. So that you're living with this tension all the time. And I've started to really get it. It really did, which is one of the reasons I wanted to come back to this part of the world, for a little bit of sanity.
I feel like I'm in a good place in New Jersey now, in Bergen County and Emerson, and it's quiet, a lot of nature. We can make noise here and not bother anybody. So, you know, and I'm very close to New York.
It is. It's good. Look, I used to get kind of freaked out sometimes. I used to have panic attacks because I'd be driving from the New York City, and if I get a panic attack, everything would look the same to me. I wouldn't know where the hell I was. So I'd have to pull off to the side of the road and just kind of curl up into a ball and try and sleep for a while till it passed. Because in New Jersey, everything looked the same to me.
Coming out of New York, yeah, for a while, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You know, you'd go through that chemical section there where all the
The New
chemical
Jersey
substances were.
Turnpike, sure. You see, this is the
Yeah,
thing. It created this misconception of New Jersey just because of people traveling through. But it's such a big state that you have mountainous areas, you have rivers, you
beautiful
have
state,
pine
beautiful state. Yeah,
forests. It's pretty happening in a lot of places. There's a lot of native vibe, Native American stuff here, big time. Revolutionary War.
I, you know, where we lived in Basque Ridge was right on at at the Great Jersey Swamp. You know, there was a 10,000 acre wildlife refuge. That was my backyard.
Yeah,
That was my backyard.
I don't have
You
to
know,
tell you. Yeah.
yeah. You know, there'd be those turtles, those snapping turtles, deer, all kinds of shit would be going on there. Never saw any bears though.
No, no. We have
No
bear
bears.
warnings all the time at the university in Wayne, in the Wayne
All right.
Hills. Bear warnings.
Yeah.
That's, have you seen that the Werner Herzog Grizzly Man documentary?
Oh, maybe I have. Yes, I did. Yeah, I didn't realize it was his documentary. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're glad you didn't see any bears.
Absolutely.
Wow, I mean this is so fantastic to talk to you, Mike Nock. Tell me what's happening now in your current day.
Well, as I said, I've just been awarded this huge, which is something. It's like a culmination to me in New Zealand. It's I've been inducted into the New Zealand Music Hall of Fame, not the Jazz Hall of Fame. I've done a lot of that. This is the Music Hall of Fame, which is a different thing. All of a sudden, people take me seriously. Jazz, okay, great, you've won these jazz awards. This is the music, and this is the biggest one. And I'm the one recipient this year because they give it to one person a year. So that's been a huge. The last month has been endless, basically interviews, even making the TV national news. I mean, shit like that. It's been a big deal.
It's a big deal. You live to see it. I'm hopefully part of letting you know that we know what you did and what it led to and what it was part of this whole web of energy of things that were happening. I mean, as a guy who loves keyboard players, because you guys can orchestrate in a way like when I do percussion overdubs, I try to orchestrate as if I were,
Good.
a 10 fingered player and try to work with four mallets and stuff. But it's a really important part of the fabric of the music, isn't it, Mike?
Of course it is. Of course it is. Look, I feel blessed. Matter of fact, the guy just wrote a big, there's been a book written about me called Serious Fun. I don't know if you've heard of that, but that's the name of the book, which sums a lot of stuff up. And it's a pretty good book. It's pretty good. But there's now moves that I should write an autobiography. Whether I do, I don't know. It's been thought of for the past year, and it takes a while to get your head around to do an autobiography. At my stage, it's a huge undertaking, but it's been very interesting because of all these things that it brings up, and my life can be divided into three sections. One is the New Zealand section, which is it's like a down under version of Huckleberry Finn. It really is. It's really some out shit. This is when I was a kid, before I knew anything about music, and then and so that would be the whole. And it's really there's no experiences like this available nowadays to people.
You
I mean,
had
seriously.
really early New Zealand out experiences as a kid.
Oh yeah, it's just a way of life. It's like Huckleberry Finn, transported from the States to New Zealand, and then there's the whole Australian. No, the next would be the American, because that's when I
Hmm.
left Australia and I came up here to the States on it. And then that's a whole other area. And then there's the after that, the whole period back in Australia, which has been totally a different thing again. So it's a trilogy in a way. And so I'm trying to figure out how to do this to make it actually doable because it's such a huge undertaking. But I'm starting to think that might be the best thing I can do in terms of you want to leave a legacy or you want to make a contribution. I don't give a legacy, but you want to make a contribution, and the contribution is just me, what I've done, who I am. And I think that's the same with most great musicians, or not that I'm saying I'm a great musician, but most musicians worth anything. It's about
hope for that.
them being there. Yeah, exactly.
Well, yes, because you feeling deeply, you've been affected, and you worked hard to present your viewpoint on some of the issues brought up by Hendrix, Miles, any of the major cats. I mean, you're one of the original cats that were going a new way. I don't even like to say jazz rock because you didn't call it anything, did you?
Well, you think if someone else called it that, then they call it fusion, whatever. It's just about self-expression, and because I didn't know any better, it was whatever you want to call it, jazz or whatever. As well, I'll tell you an interesting story about that. When I was about 12, my father died. I was there at his bedside when he died. And I was a staunch Catholic. I'd been an altar boy, all that stuff, and God didn't save him. So, in that instance, because he died, there he was, jazz, and I didn't know any music because I didn't know anything else. I didn't know any other kind of music except jazz. You call it what you want to call it. But that's the music I knew. Spike Jones, is that jazz? Well, I don't know, but it's the only music I knew. That and Bird and these cats, I knew about that stuff. Dave Brubeck. My mum had bought me a date. So I had no idea, but I love this music. And when my father died, right then at the age of 12 or 11 or whatever it was, jazz became my religion. It took the place of Catholic religion. That became my calling, as it were, And it's been like that ever since. And I've never strayed from that path because that's just what I do. That's who I am.
I'm so glad we established the time period with you and Hal with Galp. That is just, it's too funny. It's just,
Well, no, everything comes in clusters. It's really interesting how this shit happens.
Right.
Because Hal and Herbie, Keith, we're all in the same vintage. Keith,
how about Sam Rivers?
He was a little older. I played with Sam, and he came back. He came up to Australia many years ago now, but we did a big TV show that was actually broadcast across the country twice, an hour-long TV thing with me and Sam going for it. I mean, literally going for it on TV. So people would be tuning in at 10 o'clock in the evening to the regular, and there's me and Sam going for an hour.
You did an out thing for like an hour on TV?
With me and Sam and a drummer called Nico Schäuble. And I think we had a string quartet. I think I did have a string quartet. I'd written this music called Environments. This shit does happen.
Do you have tape?
I do. I do have it on tape.
Yes. That's awesome.
It's on video. It's pretty out. I mean, it really is. Because we had all kinds of substances and stuff like that, so it's pretty out. But nonetheless, there it was for everyone. They don't know that old people just. This is prime time TV. You gotta laugh.
Well, the spirit's still there, you should still, I'm writing for strings right now. I'm writing for winds. I'm writing for percussion ensemble because everything's possible now. You can overdub. But,
That's true.
That's the only thing. It's like you can program, but we don't have to program. We have the mics and we can record at home now. Everyone can record. No one has any excuse is what I tell my students. I don't know what you tell your students.
Well, I don't have students anymore. I've given
But
up.
did you tell them no one has any excuse? You have it easy?
Well, that's a good line. I probably never used that line exactly, but if I do get students again, I will tell them that actually. And I'll quote you.
I don't mind saying it. They have no
No,
freaking excuse.
that's right.
We had to go to the library, the record store, or my friend's house with a record player and hold our cassette player up to the speaker on the radio. Come on, man. I remember.
No, that's exactly why in your generation and even in my generation, the music it meant something to people. You had to kind of go out of your way to get it. It wasn't readily available,
Hmm.
and so when you did get it, you appreciated it. And the thing is, I mean, heck, okay, and this is also what happens. A little bit like Chinese whispers, how because we don't know nowadays. Everyone's got all this knowledge and they can write the shit down exactly. We didn't know what was happening, so you kind of make it up. You think, oh shit, I think this is what it is, and so you start playing it the way you thought it was. Might not have been right, but it's like Chinese whispers. So you just do your thing. It comes out a little different than the next guy's.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Tell me about Eddie Marshall.
Oh, he was a sweetheart, man, a sweetheart. My favorite drummer, fantastic, wonderful, wonderful guy. And he was a great recorder player. You know that? Did you know that he
No.
played? Oh, no, he was a motherfucker. I mean, seriously, on the recorder. Oh yeah, I mean, seriously, a serious recorder player. Unfortunately, living in San Francisco, he didn't get the do that he might have got had he lived in the East Coast somewhere.
Oh, he stayed Bay Area?
Yeah, he stayed Bay Area. He was loved by everybody. He
What did
came
you
out here. We
guys,
did some gigs out here.
were you guys doing gigs with M1 Dishi?
No, no, no. That's Herbie's band.
Yes. Were you
So
doing any
we
double bills?
no, no. Oh, no, no, no. I never worked opposite him. I worked opposite Miles with my band, which is kind of funny, but not with Herbie. But the thing is, geez, I'm trying. Ah, God,
How did you work
I'm
with
trying to think
Miles?
now. I didn't work with him. We worked opposite him.
How
It
did
was
you
his
work
band,
opposite
my.
him?
The story is, Miles, we went on first, and the band was on fire this night. And apparently, I've seen it quite a few. Miles said to let it be known he's never going on second again because the
He
band was
never
happy. Our
did.
band was happy.
He never did. He always wanted the audience first.
Yes. And that's what started it. Now, this is history.
This is Fourth Way did this?
Yes. Well, actually, this would have been Fourth Way, except it wasn't. I think we had Hadley Kellerman. You know that name at all? Tenor saxophone player was playing saxophone with us as well as Mike. Hadley Kellerman.
That's cool. You had sax and violin. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's been so long. I'd have to look. There was everything used to get reviewed in those days. I have so much material, but I have to go back and check out. I don't remember.
Do you have an archive?
Shit, that's how come people can do these things, But even so, even now there's someone doing a movie about me. Seriously, it started out to be a 10-minute movie, and this lady, she's a very good filmmaker. She started interviewing people like Marty Ehrlich and people like this.
Yep.
And she's got all of a sudden she makes the movie. It's only a 10-minute movie for this award, and she realizes she's got all this material that's so good. So she's thinking, oh, I'm going to have to try and make a full-length doco out of it. So things just do their own thing. It's quite interesting, really, how things kind of expand, because I've got a huge. What?
Just great art exists outside of time.
What's that?
Great art exists outside of
Oh,
time.
of course it does. Of course. And what is time? Anyway, Look at Stephen Hawking. What did he say about that? I mean, it's like, what is time?
What is
It's
time?
a construct. It's a construct. He claims that time goes in the opposite direction. Who knows?
What about
Who knows?
infinite thought, infinite imagination?
Yeah, we are one. We really are one. And we, as humans, we can't grasp because we're very limited. We think everything is bound. It's not. You know. You know.
That's incredible. Well, Mike Nock, talking to you is just blowing my mind, and it's just it's fantastic. I feel like I'm in New Zealand, really more than in a New Zealand frame of mind.
There you go.
I think I understand now. If you know Jermaine and what's his partner? Oh shit! And the Artie, the manager, is a great. He's a great New Zealand. I can't remember. If you know that comedy, I mean, they're their own thing, man.
All right.
Concords and Artie. Why weren't you at rehearsal? They really go out. It's very out, actually. That is true. My son and I follow comedy from different regions. Like I said, Auntie Donna is different than the Concords. And the New Zealand thing is big for us because of Concords, but also because those guys then went on and did other things. Like Jermaine did Gentlemen Broncos as an actor. So I mean, it's a whole other out frame of mind of things. I hope to go there and see the Hobbit Village.
What?
Didn't Jackson film the Hobbit movies there?
Oh, the Hobbit Village. Yes, of course he did. Yeah. Yeah. I've never seen that, and I'm going to Wellington in a couple of weeks, actually. But whatever. I mean, the world is such a huge place. You just at my stage of the game. Don't forget, I'm old now. I'm coming up on my 84th birthday. It's like hey, I'm still here doing my shit, but it's getting hazier, a little bit more jagged around the edges. You know what I'm saying? A little bit hazier around the edges. That's all cool. It's all good.
I think you're amazing in what you're sharing with us, and I thank you. People are going to be blown out listening to this, and please like and subscribe, and look us up on Patreon, the ProgCast, because where else are you going to get Mike Nock talking about the origins of this incredible music that we love, and improvisation that is a way of life. And doing it your way is a way of life.
Absolutely. That's what it's really all about. I did it my way.
Good job, Brown. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Greg.